Hey guys, welcome to another episode. This is the third episode, and sorry for the delay and everything, of the Gidlow Movie Show. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Gidlow, and I am joined, as always, with my brother.
It's about fucking time, isn't it?
My brother, it's about fucking time, isn't it? He's actually a temporary co-host. My brother, Thomas Gidlow, could not be here today.
He's on assignment today.
Well, he is an asshole, and I fired him from the show. So it is now the Gidlow, and I don't have fucking time for this, or whatever the hell you said. I can't even remember anymore.
Haven't got time for this Mickey Mouse bowl squash.
Bowl squash. Oh, God. Okay, so sorry, apologies. Last week, Tom and I couldn't really... We tried to record, but things kept coming up where I kind of kept delaying it, and we just didn't get to it to record last week's show. And we're a day late for this one already. Because last night I had some stomach issues due to stupidity. So,
yes, we won't blame the company that produced the reason why you were stupid. But
well, it wasn't their fault. It was okay. I had bought some frozen dinners, and there wasn't any room in the freezer, so I stuck them in the fridge for about a week, and then I decided to heat up some, steak and mac and cheese frozen dinner that was only refrigerated, and it turned on me. So that was
note to anybody listening: if you ever want to eat Salisbury steak in a frozen dinner, do not put it in the fridge.
It was not stupid. A good idea. Well, we ordered a freezer, so it'll be here soon. So anyway, that's completely off topic. But anyway, that is why we're kind of behind, and we're sorry, and we will make it up for you by having an awesome show today.
Yes, we are. This one and the next one in particular, I think, are going to be two of the best that we do.
Yeah, we're working on the formula a little bit. We're trying to get everything tightened up, and last week the emails took over the show for about half of it, and that's not kind of how I want it to be. I want this to be a conversation, but I don't want it to be reading a lot of emails. So I'm also kind of trying to change the parameters of how I look at the emails and how I pick which ones I read. If you guys are just going to be like, talk about this movie, that's not going to be the best kind of email that's going to get read. We'll reply to you guys, but don't expect it for what do you think about this random movie or this random actor? It probably won't get read.
Yeah, or we could go on for hours and hours on
pretty much
for each individual movie and actors.
Yeah, we have so many favorite actors and movies, and we'd love to talk about them all, but we can't always do that. So I'm going to go through the emails, and then Tom's going to have some comments, and then we're going to do news and our main topic, and then recommends and reviews and all that stuff, and that's kind of going to be our structure for today. All right, so starting off with the emails, here we go. Once again, they asked about TV series in this. This is from A.W. Pone. Thank you, A.W. It said, "Dear Mr. and Mr. Gidlow, will you two be discussing..."
Sorry. Dear Mr. and Mr. Gidlow?
Yes, Mr. and Mr. Gidlow.
We're a couple now.
Will you two be discussing about TV shows as well? We've already talked about that. We will not be doing TV shows, just movies. And this is a second question, which I wanted to talk about on the show. Tom actually also covered on his Q&A video that he did on his Skyward Cinema channel. And it's, will we be having guest stars on future podcasts? And he specifically asked about James, who I live with. Yes, we do plan on having guests. It'd be cool if we got industry people down the road, and, we might have potentially, some people on relatively soon, maybe. I think, and that's what I'm talking about, like friends, like, maybe James, maybe Jordan. I don't know how often they'll be on, if, that often at all. But I'd love to have, if we got, big enough to the point where we could have actual people who are in movies and such to be on the show. Mainly Stuart Bayard. I think that would be our...
And Tom Wilkinson.
And Tom Wilkinson and Morgan Freeman and...
Tom Rothman.
Tom Rothman. Oh man, that's another inside joke that we haven't even touched on. Tom Rothman was the head of was the head of Fox Studios, and he used to come on the Fox movie channel all the time. And Tom and I kind of made an inside joke out of him. But he stepped down. He's not the head of. I think I remember seeing that article and linking it to him. Like, it's a sad day for both of us that Tom Rothman has stepped down as the chairman of Fox Studios. But yes, sip of drink. So yes, we do plan on having guests. I don't know how often it's going to be, random friends of mine or random friends of Tom's. But we'd love to have, relevant guests on and such.
True. And it might be a good idea to have in in short spurts, maybe have one of my actors come on. Maybe
exactly that actually be really good
perspective from things.
I'd love to have Lee on. I'd love to have Lee on the show.
Oh, he would be a blast. Lee's a great actor. Lee Armstrong is a fantastic actor.
Yeah, that's an actor Tom worked with previously. And have I met Lee at all? I don't think I've met Lee.
I don't think so.
Oh, no, I was in a video chat with him.
That's right.
Video chat with him once when we were talking about having him in our movie. But anyway, so yes, guest stars eventually, and you know, guest co-hosts and such. Maybe if Tom couldn't make it one week, which I mean, he's going to try to make it every single week. You're going to make it every week, Tom. But you know,
I would imagine it
generally
would be
we would just postpone it. I would think, but
more than me. But
anyway, so yeah, okay, so yep, that was pretty much it. He also said, "P.S. Go Seamus." So thank you, A.W. Pone. Go Seamus indeed. That's a Creature Talk reference. All right, this email is from Matt McClanahan, or McClan man. I can't. Okay, sorry, Matt. He asks, he has a couple different questions, but I'm going to shoot to the one we wanted to talk about. He says, my question arises from this point. Do you have any, to coin a term, quote, actor loyalty, as in actor X is in this movie, so you will immediately want to see it? So essentially what he's saying, I'm stepping over my words, what he's saying is there an actor who we would see in a movie that would instantly make us want to go to see that movie just because that actor is in it? Do you have anybody like that, Tom?
There's quite a few.
Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because a lot of them were most recently pretty much all in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, probably three of the top ones.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing them work together in films is it's just absolutely ridiculous and amazing. Less so now, it seems like, but still pretty good, because I haven't seen Flight, but I want to see it. Denzel Washington for sure is one for me. Mm-hmm. I'll usually watch anything that he's in. Usually his type of go-to movie is something I always find very entertaining. Man on Fire is still one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but him, Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, and I would say probably Charlize Theron. As again, I keep mentioning her all the time.
I was going to say, just it seemed like a lot of older, respected actors, but then you got to Charlize Theron. Not that she isn't respected, but you know, older.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I'm not like a sort of like a Zac Efron. I want to go see what he's doing, or you know, I mean, people that have been around a while, like a Tom Hanks, because he doesn't do a ton of movies. So you know, whenever he does a movie, that's sort of something. It seems to me, anyway. It seems like something I'd want to go see.
Yeah, I'd say for me as well. The Dark Knight Rises thing kind of works out. Christian Bale before Dark Knight Rises, I think after Batman Begins, he really kind of, before I had seen Batman Begins, I had seen Equilibrium, and that was the movie when I had seen, and then I knew after he was announced to be Batman, I was like, oh, he's going to be a great Batman, because I love Equilibrium. It's one of my favorites. It's kind of a not for everyone movie, but I love that movie. So, I mean, Christian Bale, between the movies he's done, like American Psycho and the Batman films and The Machinist, he's earned my, essentially, my movie stubs for every movie he has coming out. He's an excellent actor, definitely one of my favorites, and he just throws everything into every single role he's in, so that's why I love him. Tom Hardy's a big one for me recently. Because I went and saw Lawless, just because that had Tom Hardy and Gary Oldman, and they are really great together. They've been in like 3 different movies now together. And I would say, who was the last one I was thinking of? Oh, Chris Pine. I think Chris Pine hasn't had that long of a career at this point. He's kind of broken in more recently through Star Trek, and that's what kind of caught my eye to him. But the films I've seen him in so far have been quite good. With the exception of This Means War. This Means War wasn't a terrible movie, but it wasn't that great either. That had Tom Hardy and Chris Pine in it. But yeah.
Yeah, see, I would say Chris Pine more so now, just because I want to see
Jack Ryan.
Not only because of the Jack Ryan movies, but because he's Captain Kirk. You never saw Shatner play a ton of other characters other than Captain Kirk.
Well,
so now that Chris Pine is Captain Kirk, I kind of want to see Captain Kirk play in other things. Maybe, I don't know.
Shatner was more prevalent in television after the movies and everything. He had T.J. Hooker, and he played
Rescue 911.
Rescue 911. Well, I was going to say, what was that show? The one where he played the lawyer.
The lawyer.
Oh,
Denny. Boston Legal.
Boston Legal, that's what it was. He played Denny Crane, I believe his character was. So, I mean, he had kind of a more successful television career. But, Chris Pine, between seeing him in Carriers, that was one of his first bigger roles, I guess. He was excellent in that. He was really excellent in that. And I'm really excited for the new Jack Ryan movie. Tom and I are big fans of the Jack Ryan series. I have read a few of the books, so I'm really excited. I'm kind of hesitant as well from what they've released of the new Jack Ryan movie, but I'm really excited to see him in that. So I would say that, and maybe Anne Hathaway. I think more recently she's kind of earned my... Again, these are all Dark Knight Rises actors. I think more recently she's definitely earned my tickets. Between... I saw her in Les Miserables, and I haven't watched it all. I watched some of it, but I definitely want to kind of see her in more things now that I've seen her play, not very Princess Diaries role. So, yeah, that's pretty much everybody. Yeah. Everybody. Random mumblings from Tom. And me. So, thank you, Matt.
No, the cat is outside meowing like crazy.
I can't hear it. I'm sure they can, maybe, though. Do you want to go let the cat in?
Just go into the next email. I'll just open the door and let him in.
Okay. Thank you, Matt, for your email. You had a bit more to talk about, but we're kind of trying to stray from talking about specific movies because we could spend hours and hours just, responding to comments saying, what do you think of this movie? What do you think of that actor? So thank you for your email. You are very cool. Okay. Now I got to wait for Tom for this one because this is... you can hear me?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So next email is from Aaron Wright. He said, I just wanted to send you a message to tell you guys that you are doing great. I enjoy listening to both opinions on things. I have one question that I would like to have answered. Do you guys have a scheduled time for the podcast being uploaded, or is it just at the moment whenever you get around? I don't know. So what I would say for that is Mondays, generally it'll be around 5 o'clock. Obviously, the last couple weeks we've been off, but the idea is to keep it at Mondays at 5. That's what we're shooting for. Would you agree with that, Thomas?
Yes, we generally would. The plan, it seemed previous, was to try to record them on Sundays. So
Sunday nights.
Go up within 24 hours of them finished being recorded, so we could just go right into.
Yes.
Without any lag time or anything like that. But there will be occasions where we might have to record it early or something like that. But they should be all out Monday.
Yes. Yes. And when do you? So Tom has his comments videos that you want to do. You want to do that weekly, right?
Yeah, I'm going to do that inside of between shows, sometime Wednesday, Thursday-ish, maybe even a Friday. But it'll be during the week, and it'll be a...
Elton wants to be on the show. Where is he?
He is... Cat is walking around my room right now, and I think he's trying to get back out. I think he's tired of being in here. But anyway, it'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, somewhere in that time frame. I'll pick some questions and comments that are on this video here, and we will do a video, and I'll put that on my channel, YouTube, Skyward Cinema.
Gotcha. While Elton's walking around being all unprofessional, Fisher is laying quietly on my bed right now.
I've heard Fisher get pretty loud
when I leave the room. If I leave the room and we're in the Skype call, Fisher goes nuts. But I mean, when I'm sitting in the room just by myself and he's not either in my lap or laying at my feet, he's laying on the bed being quiet. Either that or hyper running around. Yes. So, whoops, I accidentally skipped back out. So anyway, Aaron goes on to say, anyway, I love hearing you guys talk and glad to know there's some more cinema junkies like me. Have a great day, and I can't wait for the next episode. So thank you for your email, Aaron, and sorry for making you wait for this next episode. Unintentional. All right, yes. So the next email is from Sam Brown. Hey guys, I'm loving the movie. I'm loving the movie podcast. I was wondering what your favorite death scene in a movie is.
Ooh, easy one for me.
Easy one for Tom.
Easily, and this will probably be a common theme when talking about films and referencing favorite things, from The Professional, Leon the Professional. The death scene of Leon was so very much impactful, not only in just general movie interest, but in wanting to go into doing movies too, because there are always things that I try to pull from that film and put it into whatever I'm doing, but that death scene in particular, very impactful, especially after watching and the journey Leon goes from being this cold-blooded hitman to being this caring person who is basically willing to lay down his life to try to save this little girl. So that, by far and away, is definitely my best one, and it has a little element of humor there at the end if you've seen the film.
Yeah.
Where he dies and takes the man that killed him with him.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Spoilers, but at the same time, that movie is like 20 years old, so...
but check it out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, Leon the Professional is amazing.
Awesome movie.
I would say I want to tell you my favorite death scene, but it is too recent of a movie, plus I want you guys to see it. This is going to be my recommends today, so I'm not going to mention it until when I recommend the movie. But that has my favorite death scene in it at the end of the film, but I don't want to ruin who it is. So I would have to agree with Tom that Leon the Professional has the most amazing... I just love the way that's shot. It's a first-person perspective of when he gets shot. And it's the way it's filmed is amazing. And did you talk about how you've tried to replicate it in your film?
Right. We the first short film we ever really did was called Victor James, and once again, it is on YouTube if you want to find it. But at the very end of the film, we kind of do a first-person sort of death, where the main character comes into this room. Looks like he's going to end up killing someone. In The Professional, he's escaping. In this movie, he comes in and looks like he's going to be killing someone, and somebody comes from around the corner and shoots him. Or we understand and assume, but the way that it's done is that it's shot from the perspective of the person being shot, so he falls down, falls to the side, and kind of goes all white. Yeah. So it was very much a sort of the best we could sort of homage, because that was our first short, but that was very, very true. Yeah,
so it's just like something that impacted you so much that you wanted to reference it in your own film, which was your own first film, which is I think really cool. So he goes on. See, I don't know if I want to. He goes on to list his, and I don't know. How old is L.A. Confidential? And should I spoil
20
it?
years.
Okay, well,
94,
okay. He says his favorite is Kevin Spacey's death scene in L.A. Confidential. I haven't seen that, so I can't.
Neither have
I can't. I can't go into how much I agree with you. So he goes on to say, "I'm looking forward to many more episodes of the Gidlow Movie Show. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Sam Brown, for your email."
Thanks.
Alrighty. So next we have. All right. So we got an email from Nathan Schlosser. And he first off congratulates us and says he loves the podcast. Finds it very entertaining, enjoyable. It is very professional. And it's great hearing what you have to say from two people who are very passionate about the subject matter. So he goes on to say he's a fan of very huge fan of documentaries, and his question is, can you two review any documentaries on your show? I mean, documentaries fall into the category of movies, so yes, we will. Netflix has a host of of documentaries, so I'm sure we'll find documentaries at some point that.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards like historical Cold War, Kennedy kind of, or like the Alien Roswell stuff.
Yeah,
those kind of things is the stuff that I like to watch.
Well, even topical. About, you don't like topical issue more?
Oh, no. I mean, it just depends. Like, it depends on how it's done, and it definitely depends on what the topic is. Like, I haven't seen Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth or anything like that, and but I have watched some of Michael Moore's stuff. Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where if you sit there and you watch it, you might actually, because there's a misconception or pre-notion of this is slanted, going to be whatever it is. But they're actually not bad if you sit down and watch them, so we'll have to actually do that at some point.
Yeah. So yeah, I've seen documentaries about Walmart, credit card companies, and kind of how shady they are about who they approve. You know, people intentionally getting into huge, like they want people to get into huge credit card debt, so they're paying them for the rest of their lives and stuff like that. And even more recently, a movie about the MPAA, or a documentary about the MPAA, that really kind of made me not so happy about the MPAA and how they operate. But anyway, that's, yes, we will definitely be checking out documentaries and reviewing some, potentially, if we see any that are newer and that we like. So he goes on to say, anyways, keep up the good work, and I wish both of you the best of luck. Thank you for your consideration. Nathan S. Live long and prosper. Thank you, Nathan.
Indeed.
Live long and prosper.
Fascinating.
Scottish bit of a burp there. Scottish burp there. Okay. Let's see here. Next email. Make sure I'm not opening the same one over and over again, which I think I am. Okay, so this is from AG. Hello there. This is Alexander Gwynn from the UK. I listen to the show whilst I work. Don't get fired. I don't know what you do, but don't get fired. After I did media studies at college, I could never watch I could never watch movies the same way again. After being on the other side of the camera, I'm constantly analyzing every scene and shot, thinking, how and why have they done that? Media has helped me a lot with my YouTube adding animations and stuff, but it's destroyed any enjoyment I can have from films. Have either of you experienced this? And if so, do you have any way to shut off the movie maker part of your brain? Kind regards, AG. Keep up the good work. Except for he said keep up the goo work. So we will keep up the goo work. Thank you, yes. Alexander.
Processing the goo as we speak.
This is something I thought.
Tub of it behind me.
Yeah, that's what we do. We do record this whilst we process the goo. I picked this one out specifically more for Tom, because you are somebody you're kind of closer to the way he is.
Yes. Well, now, and I actually covered this on the video briefly, but I covered it on the video that we did in between the shows. And the example I used was the Law and Order, and how after I'd come home from my first short film and saw Law and Order, all I could see were angles and cuts and why they were cutting and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as being able to shut it off, it depends on what you're watching. For me anyway, I can pretty easily slip into moviegoer interested in watching what I'm seeing mode. Although there's always going to be in the back of my mind, I'm watching and recording things as I'm watching them.
Yeah.
Because I'm always seeing if something looks really interesting or really cool, I might try to, somehow in my limited way at the moment, try to incorporate that in what I'm doing. But if the story is good enough, if the acting is superb and you're just drawn into the story, then for me anyway, it's pretty easy to just get wrapped up in the story and get lost in the film.
Yeah.
But it's not the easiest thing to do. But like I said, even when you do that, you're always going to be mindful of, why did they use that perspective? What perspectives are they using for shots? And why do they edit it like this? And that kind of thing. So it gives you a very unique perspective, and it's awesome. I love it.
Certainly, yeah. I think I can turn it off a lot better. Like I think I can like you said, if it's a bad movie and it's not drawing me in, I'm going to notice stuff.
Oh yes.
But in general, if it's just like a mediocre film, I usually can still keep my brain shut off. I get more of a writer thing coming in, where it's just like, why are they showing me this? Why are they telling me this? Why can't they tell me this way, sort of thing, as opposed to drawing this out and what is the point of all this? I get to that point, not necessarily the technical way of making, like the way the movie was made. It's more like, why did they write it like this? Sometimes, one of the biggest things that you and I both do is we point out dubs. Like, dubs can easily take me out of a movie. And what a dub is when sometimes on a day of a shoot, conditions for sound isn't the best. Maybe it's like really windy, or maybe they're shooting a rain scene and they have to go back in later, and they call it ADR looping, or ADR or looping, or ADR looping. I can't remember what ADR stands for. I'm sure people will let us know.
It's automatic dialogue recording.
Go.
I'm sorry, audio automatic.
Automatic. Yeah, I was about to say, what does that mean?
Automatic.
So they'll go back. They'll go back. They'll get actors in a studio and they'll have them sit in front of a microphone and try to sync their lines to how they said it that day on recording. And so it's like, generally, I don't know why they can never get it anywhere near right. So it sounds they'll cut between dialogue that was shot on the day, and somebody will reply with an in studio dub where it's just like why did you do that, Sam? I did it because I hate you. Why? Or I told you I hate you. It'll sound like that.
Yes, really it's quite obvious. And I've even started now, because I'm getting more involved in stuff with film and everything, I can tell when they go from lavalier to boom mic to lavalier.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it's the little intricacies. That when they start moving, they go to the lavalier and then they get to another location where there's a boom somewhere nearby, and you can tell where they shut off the lavalier and go to the boom.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. By the way, it's automated dialogue replacement.
There you go.
Or additional dialogue recording.
I think that's more apt. Additional dialogue recording makes more sense.
Yeah, that's probably the more modern way of using it.
I remember that with Bunny Bus 2, you had asked me if one point it was dubbed, and it wasn't that it was dubbed. It was that the microphone was so close to my mouth when we filmed it that it just sounded like it was dubbed. So you kind of have to focus on that realism of how it sounds as opposed to closeness of mic. Anyway, hi, I'm Dan. So
yes.
Thank you for your email. We can see where you're coming from. So hopefully one day you'll be able to enjoy movies again, Mr. Alexander. Yes. Okay, so on to the final email from James Kuda. Hello, Dan and Tom. The reason I am sending this email is I want your opinion on George Lucas's selling Star Wars to Disney. I don't like the fact that he did it, but maybe you do. It would mean a lot if you read this. Okay, thanks, bye. The only reason I put this in there was because we're going to be talking more about Star Wars with the news later. And we didn't
it's
really...
going to be in the news from now until the end of eternity. So get used to it.
But we never really touched on this too much, and I don't want to go into a whole huge-ass topic about this. I just want to talk about... I just want to kind of give my opinion on this. My opinion on the whole George Lucas, Star Wars, Disney thing. My opinion of George Lucas for the last... Ever since he started doing the prequels has been in the shitter, essentially. The prequels aren't good. The guy, he constantly goes back and tinkers with his films when they shouldn't be tinkered with. Not that they should be. They are his films. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. But I think it's in poor taste, him going back and changing the minor things and essentially ruining what made some moments great. By just adding an extra dialogue or an extra no or random or just changing the yell of somebody. He changed a normal yell to a woo yell that was completely unnecessary. So I mean, the fact that he wasn't planning on making any more in the first place was kind of a good thing for me. But I always loved it when other storytellers would go in and tell stories within the universe, whether it be video games like with The Force Unleashed, or he's doing they have the animated series on Cartoon Network, and that's not written by George Lucas. I like stuff that was overseen by George Lucas, but not actually him doing it, because I love the universe and I love the stories that were told in the original films, but I just felt like he wasn't in tune with it anymore after Empire Strikes Back. His writing was just not good, and I'm appreciative of the universe he created, but I'm more excited that new storytellers can now come on and tell their own stories within the universe without him stepping over their shoulders, essentially. So that's kind of my opinion.
Well, think of the immense possibilities that they haven't even come close to even. That's the thing with it now in new hands and stuff. That they have this entire universe with all of this. They can go off in 80 million different directions.
Yeah.
I was actually not against when they had in '96, I think it was, because I remember going to see the original in the theater.
Yeah.
I wasn't against them re-releasing the films with some touch-ups here and there. The idea of it, anyway.
Yeah, going back and watching it now, it's so that CG is so dated.
Right, because that was at the birth of real serious CGI effects and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool to see them in the theater and see the little differences and stuff. But I was 12 at the time, and I didn't really know. I
was 6, and I remember seeing.
I didn't really understand all of the little nuances and things that he changed and stuff. But I mean, that was pretty cool. But then, taking the prequels and just turning them into this. I mean, actors even talked about it. We're just, we have no idea what we're acting up against. It's George or somebody says this is what's going on. It's not even acting. It's just wall-to-wall action against a green screen, and it's just... I really hope with the newer ones that now with Abrams there, I really believe this will be the case, that they get away from some of that and create some stories that are interesting.
Yeah.
You know, because, again, the possibilities are just endless.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. All right. Well, thank you for your emails.
Yes.
We love you guys. I would say for emails from now on, I either try to keep them within. I mean, we'll certainly try to reply to as many as we can if they're not going to get on the show, but try to keep it in line with less. You know, what's your favorite? You know, or not what's your favorite, but like what's your opinion on this movie or this actor? Try to keep it a bit more topical, I would say. I don't know. We'll work out how we want this all to go, but that moves on to news articles.
I got a couple things real quick here.
Oh yeah, Tom has his comments. I did this
just
twice.
some. I want just it's two comments, a question and a comment from the Gidlow Movie Show Q&A that I had done. And once again, if you guys when I post them up and stuff, Dan will probably share it or something like that. Just drop some questions or comments, and I'll cover them or I'll reply to them in one shape, form, or another. Mm-hmm. Korean, Your Dogs mentioned that Jennifer Connelly is another actress that ages gracefully. We covered different actresses and stuff like that. We were thinking about Star Wars at the time, but I had made the comment that Demi Moore was not aging as gracefully as some. Jennifer Connelly definitely, and I just want to bring that up because I remember her, and she is definitely a very fine actress. The other one was, this is from Gek the Geico. No, wait, that's wrong. Gek the Gecko, not the Geico. Hollywood is unfortunately adapting and evolving to modern American culture, which today is mainly young teens and adults that want cheap gimmicks without much substance. Decades ago, movies were more formal, and one was too expected to be moved by the story as to feel they were part of the ride. Very true. I think that's a very astute comment about the movie-going industry these days. I actually wish there was something like... Oh, I guess it's probably theater where you can go get all dressed up and, hoity-toity and feel like you're going to a show.
Yeah.
Because now it's just you can just go whenever you want, dress whatever you want, and go see the theater.
I don't feel like it's been so much that Hollywood is adapting to modern audiences. I think Hollywood kind of put itself into this position. I don't think that it was the audiences that did this. I think as big blockbusters got more and more expensive, they essentially got to the point where they're putting so many eggs in one basket that they have to make sure it appeals to everyone. Sort of thing.
But that's the mainstream. They have to appeal to the casual person that, has no attention span. Yeah. Or very little attention span.
But they put themselves into that position.
Film.
They put themselves into that position by creating that genre of film where it's like a $200 million movie.
Yeah, the slippery slope down, from 50s, 60s, 70s style type movies and all of that thing. But at the same time, whenever I watch one of those older films, like my dad loves to watch AMC and Turner Classic Movies and that kind of thing, I always see it, and the first thing that comes into my mind is there's no African-American actors. That's always the first. Yeah. I mean, there's very rarely. Or either that or they're playing a very stereotypical role or something like that. So while the stories back then, everything was more regal and they were more story-driven, the opportunities weren't there for a vast majority of people. So that aspect of it, I do like a lot more now, that anybody can play any kind of role. It doesn't have to be, the old white rich crowd kind of thing.
Yes. Also, movies can be a lot more realistic than they were back then. I mean, there were so many movies portraying people, couples sleeping in separate beds, married couples sleeping in separate beds because that was too risque. I mean, not to say that older movies weren't risque. I think To Kill a Mockingbird deals with rape. Or attempted rape and stuff like that. I mean, it's not like everything was taboo back then. But then again, if you wanted a good old fashioned wholesome movie, you had to portray everything completely unrealistic.
Yeah. But anyway, some of that still remains like the majority of your average sort of family dealing with issues film, or there's like interpersonal problems with a film. Some of that still remains where it's hard to identify to the average American family who is struggling to pay their bills and stuff when they watch a movie with people that are driving around in Escalades and living in, $1 million houses and stuff. So some of that still kind of
there still is an element of escapism with movies, but not everybody wants to go see a movie that's downtrodden main characters.
True,
but but anyway, yes, that's.
But that's all I had. I do want to say real quick though, I do greatly appreciate all the comments that have come my way either through Twitter or through this video or through the video that you're watching right now. So keep them coming because I like engaging. So appreciate the comments. Back to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are going to move along to a couple Star Wars things and a couple J.J. Abrams things, unrelated too. I have to burp. No, I don't. Okay, so it's been kind of rumbling around that filmmakers kind of want to do standalone, or Disney might be interested in doing standalone films within the Star Wars universe that don't necessarily connect to, J.J. Abrams' next, like Episode 7. Apparently, Zack Snyder, who we were talking about, would be a good candidate for Star Trek 3, I think, in the last podcast, had gone to Disney with an idea of a film, I think, following ninjas or something like that. I can't remember what it exactly was. But he had gone to Disney pitching an idea set in the Star Wars universe, but not something that connected to that. Apparently he was kind of shot down with that. But Disney is interested in doing the solo films or standalone films with characters from the Star Wars universe. Specifically, it's kind of rumored right now. I don't think there is an official confirmation that they are going to do standalone films, but I think it's rumored right now that they're going to do potentially a young Han Solo film that also might cross over with Boba Fett. So it might be Boba Fett and young Han Solo.
Young Han Solo? Is that
Han Solo. Young Han Solo that would take place between episode 3 and 4. So that seemed kind of interesting to me. Apparently there's some novels that take place during that time period and stuff like that. They're talking either it would be potentially them together or separate films, like a Boba Fett film and a Han Solo film.
Right.
And I think that's kind of interesting. I kind of like that idea. I don't know.
I would like to see because
I'd rather see an old Han Solo film. Like, I'd rather see Harrison Ford be, Han Solo after the events of... But I don't know how well that's going to interconnect with episode 7.
That's kind of my thing with it. It'll obviously... I think if they do a standalone film, it'll be a different actor playing Han Solo. I don't think they'll do an old... You know, I think at this point, Harrison Ford is, getting almost to the point now where it's going to be really hard to do the kind of action that would more than likely be required. Yeah. Although, who knows? But
Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah. Are they going to do that?
I have no idea. There's no official...
I think they've killed all the interest off of doing more sequels, especially with Mr. Lucas involved. But anyway, I would, at the very least, something that I want to see before they do the spin-offs or whenever they attempt to do them, is to involve some of the older actors that are still around. I know Alec Guinness is not around anymore.
Yeah, I thought you were about to say, I know Alec Guinness is still kicking, but...
No. But especially the big three, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and
Carrie Fisher.
Princess Leia. Yeah,
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher, I don't like her, but...
Yeah, but I think they could slip into these roles again, and people would forget who the people are that are playing them. It would just be... Just because I think it would be interesting, I think it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't go that route.
Yeah, certainly. So that's interesting. I'm sure I'll like whatever comes out. I have a lot of faith in Disney with this whole Star Wars franchise, and I don't really necessarily seeing it as them like whoring out the franchise. I just see it as
it could stand to be whored out a little bit. I mean, it's only been 6 movies and some video games.
Yeah, and we'll see what they do with it. But I think if they get proper storytellers behind it, I know their goal is to make money with this. That is their goal. They are a business. But the thing is, they have the money, and they get storytellers who are going to tell stories that people are going to want to see that are good. Hopefully they get the right people. That's the thing. And there's so many people who want to step forward and do it anyway, so I think it'll be fine. So that is that.
I'm going to go on a limb and say right now that Star Trek, God almighty, here we go. Star Wars 7 will end up being the highest grossing film of all time.
You're going to stake that out there?
I'm going to stake that out right now. It's going to be Avatar.
Breaking news. Thomas Gidlow says Star Wars Episode 7 will be the highest grossing film of all time or domestically? All time domestically?
I would say at least domestically.
Okay.
I'd say domestically.
I remember when Revenge of the Sith came out, and I bought one of those small posters from Walmart of it, and Dad looked at me. He was like, "You should probably go get more, because this could be like the." I remember him telling me this, and I thought it was so random. He was like, "This could be the biggest film of your generation," and he could have been right, but he was very wrong, unfortunately. Yeah. But I mean, it did do very well. It just critically, and I think by fans, it's
I
not
think
that well
now
received.
with JJ on board, the fact that Disney has taken over, and that it will obviously have some Lucas influence on this film, but knowing that it's in the different hands and knowing what the potential is, and if it once it has its ridiculously successful opening weekend and people start talking about it, it'll be a snowball effect.
Yeah. J.J. Abrams has to be, like, the luckiest bastard in the world. I mean, the guy, like, worked with Spielberg, his idol, and now he's working with, Lucas isn't going to have his hands all in this, but he will be somewhat of a consultant, as far as I understand.
I didn't even mean in that regard, just the fact that it's going to have his influence on it because he was so influential in building it up to where it is now.
But, I mean, this guy is meeting all of the people who inspired him to be what he is today, and JJ is now inspiring so many other people. It's, like, such a great thing to see. Like, I think that's... I mean, people are getting... I'm sure there are some people who are all up in arms about the Star Trek Star Wars thing, but, like, seriously, this guy has it all. He can't, like... He has to be fucking jizzing 24/7 in his pants, I would assume.
How do you sleep?
I know.
I mean, really, how do you sleep?
That
knowing
constant
you are
erection. Okay, so...
just involved in all these great things.
So, last weekend... or was it last weekend? No, I'm sorry, last week, I attended the DICE Awards, and the opening keynote speech for the summit, the DICE Summit, which I wasn't there for, I was only there for the award show, was J.J. Abrams and Gabe Newell, who is the managing director at Valve, the video game company. They also run Steam and everything, gave the opening keynote speech, and outside of J.J. and Gabe talking about working together for a game, they also talked about... JJ talked about being interested in working on either a Portal movie or a Half-Life movie.
Really?
Now, Tom and I have talked about this a little bit because he's watched me play Portal and stuff like that. And I think you and I have talked about how interesting it would be if they did a movie kind of set in that universe. Because Portal and Half-Life are kind of connected loosely. I think they take place in the same universe, but completely different circumstances. The biggest thing, like, this is really exciting for me because I think JJ could do really good either of those movies. I think they would make good movies, but the biggest thing is the main protagonists of both of those games do not speak at all. Like, they're all spoken to and don't actually interact with the story. They're just kind of plunged into everything, and characters talk to them, but the actual character you play never talks back. Like, that's kind of like one of the big things is, like, a lot of people don't want those characters to talk because it really puts you in the place of that character. Some games do that, where either they'll have the characters talk very little or not talk at all, because it really feels like you are the one who is that character.
Right.
But either way, I think those are really high concept. Portal, especially.
Portal for sure. Yeah, I don't know that much about the other one, but
Half-Life
I thought had a really big potential for a really good movie.
Yeah, Half-Life is actually set in a really interesting universe, and it's a lot more, I mean, universe-wise fleshed out other than Portal. Portal all takes place, in a science lab where you're essentially, it's a platformer. You're solving puzzles and stuff like that. It's a platformer puzzle game. But it still has also that kind of rich atmosphere and everything. And it's just, for me in general, just really exciting. I think that's pretty interesting, and I don't know exactly what's going to come of that. They just kind of said that he's interested and they're talking about it. But, yeah, exciting stuff. I love you, J.J. Abrams. All right, so the next news article that kind of leads into our main topic, what we'll be talking about after the news, is Bruce Willis has confirmed that there will be a sixth Die Hard movie. He was on BBC's One Show, and essentially in response to the question, would we be seeing John McClane again in a film, and he just said yes. So that's
nice and easy.
That's all he said. Thank you, Bruce, for your incredibly in-depth response to that.
I thought I saw an interview somewhere where he said he wanted to do, he felt comfortable doing a couple more.
Yeah. So, well, it seems to be his attitude is like, as long as he can keep doing it, he'll do it, sort of thing. And that's certainly, that's his big franchise. So, all right. So on to the next one. This one I picked more just to see what your reaction will be, Tom. Not necessarily that it's any sort of crazy thing related to us, but
get the old VHS is out.
All right. Speaking of old VHSs, okay. So, they Illumination and Universal. That's Illumination Studios or Entertainment. Who does Illumination? I believe they do. They did the Lorax last year. The Dr. Seuss's Lorax. They are planning on doing an animated, like a 3D animated version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now we've already had the definitive. The book, the amazing cartoon from, I believe, the 70s or 60s.
The 70s, I would think.
The Jim Carrey, Ron Howard film, which just... I enjoy that movie, but it did, to a certain degree, butcher that. But I do still enjoy watching that. And now they're going to do a 3D animated film. What are your thoughts on this, Thomas?
Well, I was gonna, when you brought up the Jim Carrey Grinch, they kind of, when they did that was kind of, open season on whatever else they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I guess. I don't really know how.
1966 was the animated special.
1966.
Anyway.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Granted, it's been a long time. That has sort of fermented for quite a while, so I can, seemingly understand. But I guess it just kind of goes to show that, we have to revamp everything. We have to reimagine and update. And since we have new technology now to be able to do it, I guess the one way that I could kind of describe it is in that, if we ever get to the point where we're making movies that we can interact in, like a holodeck sort of Star Trek deal where we can, if that's the evolution that we're going to go towards, would we recreate the story or would we use the original story? Why do we have to continually, go back and just remake everything? Is there ever going to be a point where we have something that just that's good enough, it's going to stand the test of time, we don't have to remake it? I don't know. Because the original cartoon is very, very well done and stands up. It's not like they reference, gas shortages or Nixon or it's not like those Russian Reds. I don't.
It's not something that needs to be updated, is what you're saying.
It's pretty universal all the time. So why do we need to now 3D? It's money.
Yeah,
it's money.
Well,
it's all it is money.
That's I kind of agree with you on this point. Usually I would say, even the argument, it needs to be updated because modern audiences won't have seen it. The original cartoon would suffice perfectly. No kid's going to watch that when they're a kid and be like, "Ew, that's disgusting. I want to see it in 3D." No kid's going to do that. Because it's a perfectly well done cartoon. The cartoon was already 30 years old when I saw it as a kid. At least 30 years old. So
do people in general clamor for 3D? It's been around forever.
It's not necessarily the fact that it's 3D. It's just going to be. It's going to be computer animated, and I'm sure it's going to be released in 3D. So yeah,
whatever. It's just all it is. It's a money grab, and we've got this that we haven't redone yet, so let's do that.
Apparently,
it'll never end.
It says Illumination CEO Chris Melandandri.
Oh, please read his comment. I'm sure
Is it no? It just is attached to produce the new version with Seuss's widow Audrey Geisel executive producing. So she is kind of standing behind it, which could mean supposedly the Lorax was very good. I haven't seen it. I do own it, I think. No, I don't own it. But I heard good things, so I don't know. Hopefully they just, as long as I mean, I just hope they do it justice and don't butcher it, kind of like the Jim Carrey one, because that was just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey in the guise of the Grinch. So he was just kind of doing his shtick. But all right, so that's that.
Yes,
Tom has spoken.
Let's leave it there.
Tom has spoken. So the BAFTAs were held either this weekend or last week. I don't know.
I think it was this weekend.
You think it was this weekend?
Yes.
All right,
so maybe they don't. Yeah, Sunday. I think it was Sunday night.
Sunday night. All right. So the winners are in. Usually, if you don't know what the BAFTAs are, they are the British Film Awards. Pretty much the Oscars of the British Isles. And usually, sometimes people use those kind of as the to see. What was the word?
The barometer.
Like the primer. I had the barometer of what could do well at the Oscars, because generally they're kind of in sync, but have sometimes different things pan out. But it's the big awards. You hold up against the Oscars. Anyway, hi, I'm Dan. So the winners have been announced, and I figured I'd run through some of these. Tom and I read through them before. So let's go through the important ones. Best film. Supporting. Oh no, not best film. Best film was
best film was called The Supporting Actor.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, best film was Argo, which I would mildly agree with that. Tom has not seen Argo.
I have not seen that yet, but I'm happy for Ben Affleck, and
yes,
he also tons of awards for it.
Yes. So best film was Argo. Best director was Ben Affleck. Congratulations, Ben Affleck. You deserved it. Supporting actress, Anne Hathaway for Les Miserables. Les Miserables. Supporting actor was Christoph Waltz for Django Unchained. Leading actress was Emmanuelle Riva from Amour. Let's see here. Leading actor was Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln. Did I get to...
Best British film.
Best British film was Skyfall. Outstanding British film. That was very important. I'm very glad that won.
Yeah.
Because how could that not be the best British film?
That would have been insanely sad if something else had beaten out British. What the number one film Britain is known for.
Yeah, it was beaten out by Anna Karenina. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I could have seen Les Miserables taking it. You know
if
what?
the movie was
bad, what's very funny to me is the fact that Les Miserables it's set in France, but it is starring all of these English actors. It's
and
like
Australian too, wasn't Hugh?
And Australia, yeah. Hugh Jackman's Australian, but I mean they're all speaking in British accents, and they're saying random things in French every once in a while.
Yeah.
But it's just like you're supposed to be French. Why are you all like, "Blimey, governor, let's go have a revolution," sort of thing? Like, why?
I can't think. There's an example that was going to be at the tip of my tongue about where I've seen that. It's like American old style movies when they had Nazis and stuff. Sometimes they were just random American actors playing Nazis and didn't even care to try to have any sort of German accent. It's just kind of strange.
I had gotten a message at some point, somebody talking about in my Blu-ray update video where I had shown Valkyrie, and I really liked Valkyrie. I think you did too.
There's one right there.
So that's a movie where every single actor in that movie speaks in their own accent. Whether they be English, Irish, American, they speak in their accent. It starts off with Tom Cruise speaking in German, but it then switches. It kind of does a Hunt for Red October, where they essentially show him writing in his journal, and then it switches to English. And so you kind of have an understanding, the movie and you have an understanding for the rest of the time that everybody's going to speak English, but you have to understand that they are speaking German when you're watching them speaking English.
It's like the audience has a universal translator in your
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so when a movie does that, I don't mind it. But if they're going to have some people go, mein Führer, there are things over there, and then he's like, yeah, I heard. If they did that and they some people were trying it, some people weren't, I could understand, being annoyed by that. But, when it's the movie at the beginning says, okay, just go with us on this. We just want to tell a story. I'm fine with that, but when you have Australian actors and American actors all putting on a British accent when they're supposed to all be French, I don't quite understand that. So, it's interesting and funny to me. Okay, so best animated film was Brave. Original film music was Skyfall, Thomas Newman, which I thought had an excellent score. Adapted screenplay was Silver Linings Playbook. I didn't know that was written by David O. Russell. Interesting.
Good for him.
Original screenplay, Django Unchained, and so on and so forth. Let's see if there's any other.
It's like we had talked about beforehand. I'm less all... I'm not a big fan of the awards stuff.
Yeah.
Particularly with the fact that how in the blue hell The Dark Knight Rises is nominated for absolutely nothing.
Okay, well, at the BAFTAs, they were nominated.
They were nominated for one thing.
They were nominated for special visual effects.
Yeah. How that film can't be nominated for cinematography at the very least here.
Yes. It doesn't matter the content of the movie. Visually, The Dark Knight Rises is amazing.
It invalidates the whole process, and I don't know what the stereotype they want to use is nowadays. Oh, it's a big block, but who cares? Lots of people loved it. Okay, so that's a negative, in the way they think. So whatever. I don't get it. They should win Best Actor. They should win Best Picture. They should win Best Cinematography.
Yeah,
they're not even nominated. So
whatever. Yeah. It's really sad to see that, or even costume design or stuff like that.
Yeah. But The Life of Pi will probably win every award, and
the Oscars.
Whatever.
The Oscars have a track record for snubbing Nolan a little bit, at least in the picture or director category. But I mean, they've just completely snubbed The Dark Knight Rises in general this year. Like cinematography, okay, Django Unchained, I can see. Life of Pi, I can see. I've heard amazing things about the visuals in that film. Lincoln, supposedly, in an interview with... I listened to the Kermode and Mayo movie show podcast, and they had an interview with Spielberg where he was saying he tried to have a quiet lens on the film. And what he meant by that was he didn't want to be, a crazy showman with the film. He wanted to make sure they shot it in a very simple way.
Yes. That kind of a film needs to be shot like
exactly. That. He didn't want to overbear it with a crazy visual style. He wanted to just focus on the events of the film. Although they were criticizing on the podcast that at the same time the John Williams score blows everything out of proportion and tells you what to feel every 5 seconds, where it's just like and stuff like
Somebody
that.
Died, and here comes the
yes, exactly, something like that. So it's kind of contradictory to say you had a quiet lens, but not a quiet soundtrack. And then Skyfall, which I completely agree with. Now, the one I haven't seen, but I've seen like the trailers and stuff like it, was Anna Karenina. That's the other film that was nominated for Best Cinematography. Now, I can't say that isn't deserved of that, but I just comparatively, I'm so surprised that it just didn't get the Dark Knight Rises didn't even get nominated for that.
No, I can. I don't have any qualms about saying what. It's just that they have to pick one abstract film that nobody's ever heard of and nobody will ever
Anna Karenina isn't an unknown film or anything.
Well, fine.
You haven't heard of it,
but and believe me, I'm not everybody, so I don't want to impose that. Just because I say it's true doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
But they always have to pick some film that's just some artsy fartsy something or other, just to throw it in there because they're the Academy of whatever the heck they want to call themselves, and. It's just, again, like I said, it invalidates the whole process if you don't take what many people consider probably the best film made in the last 10 years and is not even nominated for anything.
Seemed like a love it or hate it thing for a lot of people. For Dark Knight Rises. It really did.
I don't know. but again, even if you don't like the film or the performances or the director, the cinematography alone, it's amazing. The IMAX... the quality, it's you can't beat it. But what do I know?
Gotcha. Alrighty, well, this next news article that we're going to lead into after the BAFTA conversation we just had there is something I figured would be more relevant to Tom's interests. Martin Scorsese has joined on Luc Besson's Malavita. It is Luc Besson's next directorial film, and Scorsese will be executive producing the film.
That's quite an arrangement.
Yes. Well, I like how they credit Besson for The Fifth Element and The Professional in the article. But the film
That's
stars...
rare. Usually they would have done something more recent.
Yeah, well, he hasn't really directed a whole lot.
Well, that's why I thought
I think he did The Lady more recently.
Yeah,
that was his film.
When you had just said that, it seems that the arrangement was sort of odd, because usually you'd think it'd be the other way around.
Professional and Fifth Element?
No, I meant with Scorsese directing and Besson maybe producing, because he hasn't.
Oh yes,
quite a lot.
Well, the film stars Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, Tommy Lee Jones, Diana Agron, and John DeLeo. Which
aside from those last two, that's one hell of a cast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm just going to read the article a little bit. Scorsese and Besson started on Malavita with an informal partnership where he played the important role of offering creative consultation before and during filming. Now that Scorsese's role has been formalized as executive producer, he will continue to work with Besson throughout the film's post-production and editing process. So I guess they've already filmed it. The film is the story, it comes out October 18th, it's the story of the Mazzonis, a notorious mafia family who gets relocated to Normandy, France under the witness protection program. While they do their best to fit in, old habits die hard and they soon find themselves handling things the family way. It was adapted by, Besson adapted the screenplay from the book Badfellas by author Tonino, I can't pronounce his name. So that's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see Luc Besson tackle the whole mafia aspect again. That was kind of
getting back to his roots somewhat.
Somewhat. I am hopeful because I think Besson can be an excellent director, and the guy has not done enough. To really,
well, he did, and it kind of goes back to the old story that he did The Professional just as something he needed something to do, or it was something like that. But before he did The Fifth Element, because he had done Lolita, I think, before this, and used Jean Reno, and it was a similar story. But obviously, this one's gotten a lot more notoriety. But yeah, no, he hasn't. Seeing him, he hasn't done a ton of stuff, and seeing him come back to something that. Maybe I always kind of look at it from this perspective, keep my fingers crossed that maybe if we don't get the chance to do it, that maybe eventually it will lead him to doing a sequel to The Professional.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
Following Natalie Portman's character?
Yes. Called Matilda.
Matilda the Professional.
Inside jab there at Daniel.
All right, so that's very interesting. I am excited to see that film when it comes out October 18th. So,
yes, sir.
Alrighty, and then the last bit of news, which is something that Tom and I have talked about a lot recently. Title of the article: Alice Eve denies Star Trek Into Darkness villain rumors. At the BAFTAs, they had the red carpet, and she was going down the line, and she was being asked a couple questions by a reporter, and one of the random questions was. The rumor is that Benedict Cumberbatch is playing Khan in Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, this is something that the writers have shot down. JJ has shot down. They've all say he's not playing Khan. And Alice's response was just a simple, and they didn't talk about this anymore after that. She just said, he's not playing Khan. And that's and then they went on to other questions. So, you heard it here. Benedict Cumberbatch is not playing Khan.
Yeah. You heard it here, 7,642nd.
A lot of people in the comments of this article are pointing out about how, with The Dark Knight Rises, Marianne Cotillard point blank said that she was not playing Talia, and it's been done in other films as well, where an actor or actress says, I'm not playing this character, or this person isn't in the film. And sometimes they're just blatantly lying just to keep the secret under wraps.
Yes.
But, I mean, I don't know. I believe them when they say he's not playing Khan, because I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely do. I think earlier on it was easy to kind of, it's just JJ being JJ and all that stuff. I just think, not that it's because there's so many people saying that it's not. It very well could end up being, but there are so many different directions they could go. They could go with this character to have to go back to it has to be Khan.
It seems too easy to just fall back on familiar characters.
Yes.
I think
much better conspiracy theories out there. Anyway,
I would almost feel cheated if he was Khan.
I would probably mark out like a schoolboy, but after that, I would probably go back and look at it and be like,
it's just like if they say he's not Khan, I want to believe them. And the thing is, at this point, it'd be so obvious if it was Khan. If he came out and like at the end, it's just like, I'm Khan, and then it's like if that happened, I would be probably pretty angry.
Something happened. My last breath at thee.
Something like at the end of The Dark Knight Rises with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, when they reveal what they reveal, James the entire movie, he's just like, he's this guy, he's this guy, he's this guy, and then when he does it, he's like, I'm kind of pissed now. Like, it's just like, it's so obvious that it's like, it's not a reveal. Well, for me, it was because I was going along with the movie.
Yeah, to me, I was so into that movie that I never put two and two together and even thought anything about Robin. I was so into the character he was playing. He was playing Blake. But, going back to this, like I was saying, I don't even know how this continues to be, as strong. I understand the basicness of not wanting to believe what these people are telling you, but I think at this point, it's not Khan. I would imagine, like I said, there are far better things. I kind of like the theory of what me and you had talked about when you had just kind of briefly brought it up with the whole Johnny thing at the beginning of the first new movie, that it might be Kirk's brother. I thought that was somewhat fascinating.
I don't think that's it, but
no, but it was a fascinating thing. I think there is a familial something at play here. That's all I will say on it. I think there's definitely some connection.
Well, I've been reading the prequel comics not the prequel comics, but the comic book series that's set in the JJ universe with the new crew, that kind of retells stories from the original series, also tells their own stories. And the one I left off on was Kirk running into his brother who had ran away on a different planet that was in distress, and I stopped reading it because we landed on the plane. But if I know I don't think that's canon, but I don't think that's the way it's going to play out. But it's certainly it's a idea.
Yes. But, well, I still think if it's not just some John Harrison, I think the best thing that I would kind of hope for, although I'll go with whatever happens, really. But
exactly,
yeah. But
it's always fun to speculate and try to figure things out. Tom and I went through frame by frame through the trailer recently to piece together scenes. That's how terrible we are.
We are
at this.
hardcore Star Trek fans.
Not even. I mean, if it was like the Avengers trailer or something like that, I would be doing the same thing.
I'd be less interested in doing it.
But you got to say you are interested in the Avengers.
Yeah, but not
that I've kind of got you into
interest. Star Trek, I need to get everything that I can.
I know, it's so bad. We're so bad about that. Anyway.
Although I do want to be somewhat surprised. I mean, I don't want to see everything that comes out pre-film.
Yeah.
But once it comes out, I'll see it probably 10 times before it goes to DVD or Blu-ray.
Certainly, yeah. You and I are probably going to go nuts over it. Tom and I were I was actually talking about flying Tom out so he could see it with me.
That would be pretty epic.
But yes. How would Haley see it then?
Yeah, I kind of stuck. Not stuck, but I
between two worlds, Thomas.
Yes, I know. I kind of have to play both sides.
Work it out. We'll work it out. So, okay. So we're going to move on to our main topic of
meat and potatoes.
The podcast. This week, our main topic is going to be the Die Hard franchise. Woo-hoo! Now, on Valentine's Day, Thursday the 14th, the new movie A Good Day to Die Hard is released. Tom and I are very big Die Hard fans.
Yes.
I'm going to be doing a Creature movie night with these guys. We're going to go see the marathon that they're doing on the 13th. If you're interested in doing this, they're showing all 5 Die Hard films starting at noon and going until 10 o'clock when they're going to show the premiere of the new Good Day to Die Hard. And that'll go on until 12 or something like that. So, just Google it. You can find out if it's playing at your local theater. And so Tom and I are going to go see these separately, obviously, because we're in many different states apart. And what we're going to do is today we're going to talk about the first 4 movies as we remember them and give them ratings. So we're going to talk about these movies, give them ratings, and then next week, after rewatching them, we're going to give them far more objective or
Yes.
more critical ratings.
Yes, because I think it's been quite a while since I've seen any of the other. I've only seen the fourth one once in the theater. I don't.
Oh, really? You haven't seen it since the theater?
No. So I haven't seen the other three in forever. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen.
It's been years for me, but I have seen them. I have seen the fourth one since on DVD. Well, you haven't seen the unrated version, the rated R version.
I don't believe so.
Oh wow, how bad?
Maybe
for
I
you.
have seen the. I know I've seen it. We went and saw it at the theater, and I remember. Maybe we did see the rated R version on DVD or Blu-ray, but it's only been.
I haven't had it on Blu-ray until recently.
Yeah,
and it's
only been once or twice, no more than twice.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about it.
Well, would you wish me to go first, or do you want to go first, sir?
Can we not make it a conversation?
Take it away.
You don't want to talk to me?
No.
What's going on? Okay, so the first film,
Conversation.
Die Hard.
Just Die Hard. There's no tag after that.
No, I was leaving a space in there for a tag, but then I was like, "There's no other byline to this movie." So Die Hard,
Carl's Revenge.
I mean, that movie's a classic. That movie is the action movie it's the movie that launched Bruce Willis's career. He was doing moonlighting at the time when they filmed it. So he was kind of a big TV guy, but it was the movie that launched him into a film career.
This is true. Yeah, it's definitely. Just thinking about it now, it makes me want to. I'm very eager to see it again, especially in a theater. It'll be quite awesome.
Well, we only have to wait until tomorrow. So.
Well, I know, but we didn't have we have talked previously about how we'd watch movies and stuff, but we'd only see it like on TV. I don't think we ever really had it on DVD to go watch like over and over again on DVD. No. We'd watch it on TV when it was like edited for content, and we've seen the whole movie, but we never seldomly saw it where it was the whole movie from start to finish and all of that. So it'll be cool to bring that all sort of piece by piece.
Yeah. Certainly. I remember we used to have we always used to tape things off of TV, but that's not one of the movies we ever taped off TV. But I do remember, I think when I got it on DVD, I sat down and watched it. That must have been the first time I ever saw it completely unedited, because I think it was me, Mom, Dad, and actually Haley sat down and watched all three of them, like one night at a time. And I was surprised they let Haley sit down and watch it, because she was like, I don't know, 11, 12.
Yeah, it's very rated R film.
It is, and there's actually some very brief nudity in the first one. There's a chick who's like ripped out of a boardroom. I guess she was having sex with a guy in there, and you see her boob for like 2 seconds. But this is random, but our parents were actually rather lenient with rated
liberal,
R films, and that was awesome. If I ever have a kid, they can watch whatever the hell they want when they're. Well, I mean, with moderation, but
within reason.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it's one of those things. It's responsible parenthood. You sit them down, you watch it. If they have any questions,
if you think they can handle it as well, you don't want to do it intense.
We could go on a tangent on this thing, but yeah, no, it's very rated R. It's very actiony, but it's very, it's an elevation. Each and every basic quote unquote kill of Bruce Willis kind of elevates the feeling, and it's an elevation throughout the whole film until you get to the end. It's one of those classic, just awesome action movies, and I keep saying this, but I cannot wait to see Winslow. I know it's not his name. I don't know what his name is.
Carl Winslow.
Carl Winslow.
His name's film. Carl in the film. I don't know what his last name is.
He's a cop. His name is Carl. That's all you need.
He really is Carl Winslow.
Reginald Val Johnson is his name.
Is his name?
Yeah.
Is he still acting at all?
Oh yeah, he's still around doing stuff.
What? Why isn't he in the Die Hard films?
I don't know why he's not. He should be in every one of them, but well, they're in Russia now, so I mean, unless he's on vacation in Russia for some reason.
Oh, wouldn't that be so? We were talking earlier. It would be so awesome if he had a random ass cameo.
Yes,
that would be so.
Even
good.
If it was like at the end and he's back home or something like that, it would just be awesome.
Yeah.
But I was going to say the same thing about Holly Generico, but I think she's dead, isn't she? Didn't she die at the end of the third one?
Oh no, she's still alive.
She just moved on.
Yeah, she's still alive.
I remember her being, when I saw her in the first one, she was very sort of under the radar, sort of hot. She wasn't, this over the top bamboozle kind of damsel in distress.
I mean, she was a regular woman.
Yeah, but she would. It's the typical sort of action film. When you get later into the film, they seem to lose more clothes.
Yeah.
But she's quite hot. She was very. I remember that as being something like that. So we'll have to see if it still holds
you
up.
like the curls. She had
Yes,
there was
I
a
like
reference
women.
to her in the fourth film. But I don't. I think they showed her picture at one point, maybe.
Yes.
But yes, but I mean, Die Hard was a movie that kind of set the standard for a lot of other films. I mean, it became one of those movies that was compared, like when you wanted to sell your movie, it's like Die Hard in an elevator.
Oh,
it's like
God, every
Die Hard
movie.
meets Indiana Jones. It's like Die Hard meets The Professional.
Yes.
Or Die Hard meets.
Not only did it spawn a
Dr.
battery.
Seuss. What?
Not only did it spawn a brand of car
Yes.
batteries, it was a sort of a, not a genre in and of itself, but almost to that point. But it was like a cultural thing where everything is compared to that film.
Yeah.
And it was like that forever. I mean, even still somewhat now, occasionally I think I hear stuff like that still. I mean, that just tells you the kind of impact it had.
Well, I mean that one movie, the one we talked about on the last podcast, where what is it? The White House film.
Oh yeah.
It reminded me of Die Hard, and I can't something down.
I don't know what the name. Oh, Quartz Star Down, or what the hell? Quasar? What? Some weird name. It's like Optimum Olivium. What is it?
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Quasar. I don't know.
Quasar Down. Yeah, Olympus Has Fallen.
Olympus. That's
okay, because Olympus is the code name for the president. Well,
Atlantis.
thank you. Oh, Atlantis. Well, thank you for listening to us fumble to try to figure out the title of the film. But yeah, no, that movie really became the standard for some action films, or for action in general. And the biggest thing was it wasn't all crazy, overblown action. It was, mildly realistic. He got the shit beat out of him. He was bleeding. He was walking around without shoes on, and he got glass in his feet.
Yes.
Stuff like that really humanized the character, and he was just a regular guy thrown into a shitty situation. And that's kind of the trend throughout the rest of the series.
Right.
But, it was genuine first time around. It was really, really well done. Not to mention the acting by pretty much everyone in that film was great.
Well, and the other thing, too, that I would kind of add to what we were talking about kids watching it and stuff. I remember it having this sort of cloud of, this is a real adult movie. Yeah. Like, that is for adults, and definitely not for kids, for kids, especially kids that can't handle it. And it just had this sort of aura around it that this is a very adult thing. And now we're adults, and we get to basically, it's just so cool that we get to go back and now we get to watch all of them and continue watching the new ones. And I don't know. Yeah. I see myself just kind of geeking out somewhat, but even now realizing that, I didn't realize how much of an effect it had on me as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, as a child, I remember it being, and I think watching it now, I'll still have that feeling a little bit because of that kind of correlation between being an adult me and young me. I feel like the violence was a lot more realistic in the
That's
first
how I
film.
Remember it, yeah.
I remember Gruber executing a guy in the office, and it just being brutal. And
scary, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and violence in, the latter Die Hard films, it's just, it's inconsequential. It's just people getting killed.
Well, it's somewhat been standardized. You're used to seeing.
Yeah, I guess you get desensitized as it goes along. But I mean, at the same time, violence can be portrayed as real and brutal and not sensationalized.
Oh yeah.
But
I agree.
And I don't feel. I mean, it was to a certain degree in that film. But the executions in particular, not necessarily John running around killing people. The executions in that film from Gruber, specifically, I think it was the Mr. Nakatomi. I think he kills him relatively early on. Either that or the guy who ratted on them.
Yeah, that was the guy that I was thinking of when they.
Yeah, I think wasn't he sitting in a chair and they just shot him?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of.
The Connie sort of guy you hate. There wasn't as much feeling behind that when he dies because it's just.
Well, he was buying into what they were saying.
Yeah.
And the thing was, his wife knew that.
He was that typical 80s businessman. Hey, it's like, yeah.
I just sniffed some coke earlier, man.
Come on, let me play this angle.
Yeah. But yeah, he was just naive and wasn't understanding the situation that they were going to kill him the second they gave him the information. So the movie really is classic. The acting is excellent. The situations hadn't been seen before at that point, I think. It was original. It was something that was really good. And yeah, so that movie is a classic. And do you want to get to ratings?
Definitely a 9 for me. 9 out of 10.
I'd probably agree with that. I was going to give it a 9 as well. So 9 out of 10 for the original Die Hard. I have a feeling that that's not going to change next week when I see it again.
Probably not. I can't imagine it going higher, and I definitely don't see it going lower. So just remembering it as we're talking about it, all the scenes running through my head and stuff.
Exactly.
I don't really think we're going to change
the blonde guy being hung from a chain and Bruce diving off the exploding rooftop. The two Agent Johnsons. Like that real ridiculous joke they had running in there.
Well, that and the early on sort of, again, that is sort of replayed in future films, but the early sort of, quote, the non-racial tension between the police officer and the, I don't know what his name is in the film. It's Carl, right?
Yeah. Carl.
Yeah, that they kind of joke back and forth about that whole thing, and it's quite humorous.
Yes. So that's moving on.
The second one, which will probably be a little bit different.
Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
Die Harder.
Right. As far as remembering what we think we remember about that film and then watching it, this one might be the one where we might have some area of change.
Okay, so the preface, the backstory for this film. This movie was not written as a Die Hard film. It was written as, not a Die Hard knockoff, but it was already written as a different movie. And I think the studio wanted to potentially make a franchise out of Die Hard, so they slapped on the Die Hard name and changed the characters around.
Right.
So first off, that's a terrible sign. And the thing is, Die Hard 2, Die Harder is essentially the same film, except for it's not taking place in a business building. It's taking place in an airport. And there's certainly different scenarios that happen, but it's pretty much the same movie.
Yeah, it's the same type of movie that he has to kind of overcome ridiculous odds and all of that kind of stuff. I don't remember it being as good on the quality overall as the story.
I think visually, I remember it not being as well. But then again, I haven't seen it on Blu-ray or on the big screen like we're about to. But
right.
I don't remember it being visually as interesting as the original Die Hard. I think the biggest thing it had to live up to was it's going to inevitably be compared to the first Die Hard. I think
continue. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say the only redeeming things I really remember about it was the just essentially progression of the characters.
Yes.
It showed Holly and Bruce. I don't think their marriage was on the rocks at that point.
Well, it had gotten better at the end of the first one, and then they were okay. I think
in the second one,
right? And then by
the end of it, he essentially saves her, and so they're good. But then by the third one, it's just like, my wife's divorcing me, sort of thing.
Yeah. They couldn't. That's the thing. This kind of made them come together, but outside of all of this action, they really couldn't keep it together.
Yeah. Well, I liked the return of the reporter is on the plane with Holly, and I liked that dynamic where it's like she's kind of getting her revenge for him fucking them over in the first movie and putting their kids on television,
right?
For Gruber to see, but and putting them in danger. So I like that. That's the
other thing this movie doesn't have is a Gruber.
It doesn't have a Gruber. That's right. It's that's one of the four, one of the two that have Gruber in them. Yeah. But so half of the film so far. Who knows if there will be another Gruber brother in Russia?
Well, there probably won't be, but maybe for the sixth we can hope. Maybe there's some distant
Fingers
cousin
crossed.
that hasn't been killed yet.
A niece or something like that. Change it up a little bit. Too many male bad guys.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's about a terrorist cell. I can't even remember what their motives are. It's just such a forgettable movie.
Well, that's the thing. It's just that I remember them being on the plane, and I remember the one guy, the guy. It's the Shawshank guy, isn't it? The bad guy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's the actor
he's
who was in
the
Star
typical, Trek. I don't remember him being all that memorable. I just remember seeing his face and being cold and it's winter time. And
yes.
I remember the end where he's out with the plane and stuff and he's trying to land the plane by himself with the flares, and that was kind of cool. But
a completely forgettable, bad guy and plot. It's all I remember is he runs into the issue with the airports getting taken over or something like that. Like that's the thing is I have such a vague memory of it, and I've seen this movie like 3 or 4 times.
Isn't what's his name in this too?
Carl is in it as well.
Law and Order guy, President. Fred Dalton Thompson.
Dalton,
the leader
yeah. He was like the air traffic controller or something like that. Right. He's like one of the head guys. Mm-hmm. He's in it. But I mean, like I was saying, it's really forgettable. The only thing I remember about the bad guy is he's doing like yoga naked in his room. That's the scene we're introduced to him.
I don't remember that at all. Thanks for remembering.
I know. Well, the thing is, DVD. The DVD. I saw this. Like I never saw it on TV. But the scene where we are introduced to him, he is like working out naked, completely naked. And like that's all I remember. I remember that. I remember they have like a computer station set up in some cabin out in the middle of.
I think I remember him trying. Bruce Willis trying to smoke in the airport, and they told him he couldn't, or something like that too.
Yeah, I think that was a joke. So I mean,
very piecemeal sort of remembrance.
Yeah, it's a rehash, and it's forgettable. Well, and
going to what you said though too, you can't really count it against the franchise because again, it wasn't meant to be a franchise film. They kind of slapped the name on.
That's true.
A film.
No, but at the same time, they did do that. So I mean, it has to be held accountable for what it's what it is. They really could have made the effort to kind of work it over a bit more. But I don't know. It's the only movie in the franchise that really fell flat for me, and definitely probably has the lowest marks. You have anything else to say about it?
No, it's hard to give sort of a rating to it because again, it's been so long since I've seen it. But having
that's the whole point of this entire thing.
and trying to pointing out the things that we did have, and trying to balance that versus the character progression, which is a good thing that you get to see that sort of payoff in the next movie and all that. I would say probably a 7. I'd probably put it as a 7.
That's pretty high.
Remembrance. Well, again, I think we we have a little bit of a different balance on our scale. I don't think there's too many movies that are made that would be below a 4. I mean, they'd have to absolutely be the worst, crap you'd ever seen. But it is the only reason I remember it being decent, so I'll give it a 7.
The only reason I reviewed Parker for a 0.5 out of 10 was because, for me, the only redeeming quality out of it was that it was terrible, and it wasn't The Room terrible,
well, there you go. That would be one that would qualify lower end of the scale. But I may change that after I see it again, so we'll see.
Okay, so I would give Die Hard 2 Die Harder. I think the title itself bumped it up a little bit in my rating. I'd give it a 5.5 out of 10.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I was leaning towards a 5, but the title just because Seamus makes references to that all the time. Anything 2, it's like Mass Effect 2, Mass Harder, just stupid stuff like that. Grand Theft Auto 2, Theft Harder. Just like you can make so many jokes out of that. So, 5.5 out of 10. So, moving on to...
Leads us into... Yes, I hate to interrupt you, but leads us into probably my favorite of all of them.
All right. Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now, by the way, we didn't mention Alan Rickman by name. He played Hans Gruber. He was excellent in the original film. Now, Die Hard with a Vengeance sees... Hans Gruber's brother, played by Jeremy Irons. I can't remember his name specifically. He's a Gruber. Yeah, McGruber! Wait, no, they could have McGruber for the 6th one.
There you go.
Just like dismantling a bomb the entire time. So it sees Hans Gruber's brother coming back to exact revenge, seemingly. At first it seems like that John's kind of being... essentially tortured by him saying he has bombs planted throughout New York and he has to go do crazy things or otherwise he will detonate the bombs. And I don't know how in-depth I want to go into the story, but essentially it's all a distraction. He's trying to knock over New York's gold reserve.
The thing for me, the thing that makes it my favorite of the films,
Samuel L. Jackson.
Exactly. Is the film not so much just him, it's the interaction between him and Bruce Willis. Those two.
Yeah. It turned into a buddy comedy.
How both of them at that time too had just previously worked on Pulp Fiction. now are working on this film, and the dichotomy, the relationship, those two, for me, that takes it almost steals from the story, which is it's a good story, but that
it elevates
put me. They hate each other, and they just, especially the way they meet is one of the most iconic initial meeting scenes you will ever see in any movie.
Yeah,
and it's so adult, and that's what I love about it. It's just it doesn't care. It throws common courtesy out the window. It's just hardcore rough. I loved it, and it's just so fond of that, him coming out with the sign.
Yeah,
and about to be just absolutely anally torn apart by
anally. You think they were gonna?
Oh, they would have. I don't know what they would have eventually done. They would have stabbed him, cut him. I mean, if you think in a real life perspective, at that time, going where he did, there would have been nothing left of him. if Sam hadn't come along. But
that scene is. I was actually was I talking to? No, I was talking about Seamus earlier. About that a little bit, about that scene, because I had forgotten. Like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how they met in that movie. Yes. Like, it's such a that movie is just full of great moments, and they really do. The way they work together and the way they play off each other is excellent, and it does elevate the movie by a lot. If it essentially turned into the loner action thing with a slight comic relief sort of thing. Into essentially like an action buddy comedy film that was very adult, that was very hardcore, and
the language is terrible.
the language is pretty bad. But the thing is, like, thinking about the newer one, like thinking about Live Free or Die Hard and A Good Day to Die Hard, just from the trailers, it just seems like the first three were so not sensationalized. They weren't. I feel so like. I feel like the movies have kind of almost lost that. Like, I enjoy the later films. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the fourth film, but like it's almost like a different turn. Like it's almost like a different genre almost.
It's a different type. It's a different style because
it feels,
and it's the scope because the first three are very localized to specific situation in a specific place, whereas it's got this otherworldly sort of thing going on. Although less with the fourth one. But it seems, anyway, more like in the fifth one, it's a very global kind of story. Whereas the fourth one was pretty localized, too. So, I mean, it's not as bad. But the first three,
localized
for sure,
in the sense that they were running up and down the eastern seaboard.
What's that now?
I said localized in the sense that they were running up and down the eastern seaboard.
Just more to your point about the first three, they were very much... it was New York, it was Los Angeles, and it was... Where was the second one? Los Angeles, Washington or something state?
It's some airport.
Seattle?
Some airport somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. See, again, it was a completely forgettable movie. Yeah. But it seemed like the first three really took the violence seriously.
Yes.
Or at least the first and the third. Took the violence seriously, took the situations somewhat seriously. I mean, I'm not saying there wasn't any ridiculousness in 2 or 3. 2 had the scene where he was ejecting from a plane that blew up, and he flies towards the camera, and there's an explosion, and it looked... I remember the horrible green screening for that. But then the third one, he's like shot out of a geyser at some point. I remember.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying there isn't ridiculous moments.
Well, there's one of that in every one, because even in the fourth one, he's riding the wing of a fighter
jet. Yeah. I mean, they have those iconic shots that are those kind of crazy money shots that they throw in the trailer, and they have that shot in the fifth one as well, where they're jumping from looks like a helicopter. Well, a helicopter's exploding and they're jumping in slow motion, and the camera follows them down like story by story. That looked like that was be the kind of big money shot. But so I mean, the third one is really, I like that they're intricate stories. They're really, I liked the aspect that it seems like it's just vengeance at first, but then he's really just robbing, the gold reserve, and that whole thing with John McClane is just one big, kind of like rope-a-dope. They're just trying to distract, the cops and the city, and it's really good, and I really like it. And like you said, I don't know if I could rate it higher than the first one, but I could definitely put it up there with it. It's definitely up there.
Oh yeah, the first. Excuse me. The first and the third ones definitely. I would pretty much put the same. That's why I was going to give Die Hard with a Vengeance, a 9 out of 10.
You're gonna give Die Hard with a
Yes.
Vengeance same rating.
Same
with,
rating. Yes.
I'd give it. What'd I give it to the first one?
You gave
9.
9.
I gave it a 9 as well. I'd say 8.5 out of 10.
That's fair.
It's definitely on par, but not. It's not bulletproof. There were some. I mean, it was cliche to a certain extent, but at the same time, I liked what it did, and
Right.
It was definitely a step above Die Hard 2.
A step.
Die Hard.
Or 2, or 3, or 17.
Yes. All right, so moving on to a movie that I guess you've only seen once and you're about to see again.
Well, about
Live
twice.
Free.
Yeah, but yeah.
Live Free or Die Hard.
The things I remember mostly about the fourth one were Timothy Olyphant, who was very good, very believable as a bad guy, somewhat over the top, but I think there were some parts of that I recall that it almost seemed like he tried to channel sort of the Hans Gruber, bad guy.
I think he was
type of
trying to
person.
be frightening more through talking
Right.
than actions.
Than
sort of
being
thing.
a huge personality bigger than life. He was very much reserved and sort of almost like, not quite like a Javier Bardem sort of No Country for Old Men reserved, but at least somewhat similar to the style that had already been done before.
Yeah, he was playing a character that was frightening because of his convictions. He was a guy who thought he was helping the country by just crippling it essentially. His biggest thing was he wanted to show America how weak their security was. My voice cracked.
Right.
How weak their security was when he was trying to fix it within the group or within the confines of the system he worked in, and they kind of laughed at him and said no, and that kind of snapped him. But then again, in the end, he was trying to rob the United States. Essentially, he was trying to rob all essentially the digital money that was out there. But the thing about the fourth movie, and I like it, but it seems like the third movie set the pattern for the buddy comedy. Like it has to be Bruce Willis and another fish out of water character. So the fourth film sets him up with Justin Long, who is at that time popularized as the Mac guy. He was, hi, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. And so it's like, kids are going to identify him as, the techno-savvy kid. So he's the hacker in the film. Like, it almost seems like they were plugging in different, it's like, okay, we need a young hip person to be with the old guy. And so that was the dynamic. That
Justin
literally
Bieber was too young at that point.
Exactly, but that literally was the dynamic. It's like, let's set the young hip tech guy with the old analog guy and see how they mesh.
Right.
And let's have them have random conversations about music and how the music Bruce Willis listens to is old and stuff like that. And like as much as I like the film for like the story and the action and some of the acting, that really felt like it was just people saying, we have to have a young hip guy that the audience can connect with, so we can get the young people in there or something like that.
There has to be that old young joke.
Yeah,
you're too old, you're too young, blah blah. I'm not a fan of Justin Long really at all. I don't really care for him too much. I mean, he's all right.
He was good. He was good in The
worst
Conspirator.
actor.
We saw him in The Conspirator. He was good in that.
He was good in that. I will say,
but he was a very understated character. He's better when he's not playing, the main guy. Plus, I liked him in Jeepers Creepers, but then again, that movie isn't an Oscar-winning film. So
yeah, I couldn't tell you 1 second of what happened in that film, and I've seen it. But other than it just not a big fan of his. But at the same time, it was interesting. The interesting level of it was high for me, just because it had been so long since the third one, and there's so much story that they had to kind of summarize very quickly at the beginning. That sort of had a thread throughout the whole film. Where it's been, I guess, like 11 or 12 or 15 years or whatever it was. And so much had happened. He had it was the daughter, right?
Yeah.
It was the daughter in this one, not the son. But and seeing the grown-up daughter of John McClane was kind of an interesting thing, because it's almost like a half-version copy of Holly Generico, because that's who they had the kid with. And she was dead by now, wasn't she? Or again, was she just kind of left?
No, she was still alive.
Why do I want to kill this person off?
She was. I don't know. No, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who played what's his daughter's name? Oh, hell.
Mia, isn't it?
No, not
Some
Mia.
3-letter name for some reason. Mia.
I can't remember. Gia.
I don't know why I want to say that.
Well, anyway, his daughter, she, I'm pretty sure she lived with the mother.
Yes.
And she didn't want to see him, sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Plus, I think she played a teenager in the fourth film. She actually has from just watching the trailer, she has a cameo in the new one, which is good to see. You know, they're keeping up that continuity.
Yes.
But I think they just reference Jack or something like that, or they don't even mention him. I'm almost thinking.
I don't recall it, but again, it's been so long since I've seen it. But
yeah. But,
yeah, actually, I remember one of my initial criticisms of it with you when we had seen it was that it was too this whole computerized kind of thing. It seemed like at that time all of the movies were had a lot to do with this huge transition into technology and everything's computer based, and we can't have a film that doesn't involve some sort of computer technology being involved in all of that, which, again, with time is sort of faded somewhat. But
except for like you had mentioned earlier, Javier. Well, did you mentioned Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men, or were you mentioning Skyfall?
No, I meant in No Country for Old Men. I was talking more about.
Funnily enough, his character, Timothy Olyphant's character, is more in line with Javier Bardem's character in Skyfall, where he's doing everything remotely. He is essentially.
Oh no! I meant more like as a personality in his approach to why he's a bad guy, kind of thing.
Yes,
but yeah, very technologically proficient and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, the movie was called Die Hard 4.0 abroad
for
for some reason. That was so that's such a terrible name. I remember that was the rumored name for it, and then they came out. It was Live Free or Die Hard.
Is Live Free or Die Hard really that? It's really too American? Is that the reason why they didn't use it overseas?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know
Freedom
what the exact
too
reason
American?
was.
I don't.
Well, that is it is an American saying, but yeah, I don't know. What state is that the motto for?
Live Free or Die Hard, New Hampshire.
New Hampshire? Okay.
I don't think it's Live Free or Die Hard is their slogan. I think it's Live Free or Die.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Give me liberty or give me die hard.
That's what the statute says on the. When you come into America, you see that. It's
give me your dead, your hard, your die harder, and your
Nakatomi Tower will be erected somewhere on the East Coast as well, so that when people come in, they'll see the iconic.
They're going to turn the torch from the Statue of Liberty into the Nakatomi Tower.
So she's holding the Nakatomi Tower in her hand.
AKA the Fox,
Freedom,
the
Liberty,
Fox
and
building.
Bruce Willis. Beating up bad guys and Hans Gruber.
Well, we're an idiot. We're idiots.
We're
I did in that film. I did like the way they worked in Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, because the movie was PG-13. It was downgraded.
That's
essentially
one thing I was not
a
fan of.
In terms of violence, well, the thing is the rated R version. Although I don't think it's more violent, they do say fuck.
Yes.
They do swear a lot, which is nice.
Die Hard had. I understand why you go PG because it's again the money and all that stuff. But
it had been about 10 years at least since the last one.
What is this one? Do we know which one the fifth one is rated?
It is rated R.
Thank God. Okay.
Yes,
because they need to go back to rated R.
Well, I think they proved
it.
It was proven that it was still a viable franchise.
Oh, yeah. No, don't get me wrong. It's just sort of as a selfish fan of the series, I would much rather see it as a rated R film.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
But I can't remember where I was going with. Was I making a point?
Probably. I'm surprised I haven't gone off on that yet, and I usually tried to avoid that.
PG-13. I was talking about the PG-13 thing, but I can't remember what it was. But anyway, yeah, it's a bit more of a watered down version. It's less violent. But how they worked in Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Essentially, they kind of Bruce kills the bad guy by shooting himself.
Right.
He shoots through himself and kills the bad guy. And he says "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker" and does it. And so it's kind of masked by the gunshot a little bit. And I think that's how they got through that whole non-sexual fuck thing. That's kind of how they got away with it. But it is different in the unrated version. I think he asks. Well, in the regular movie, I think he asks any last words or something like that. And he says "yippee motherfucker" and shoots himself. But it does play out differently in the unrated version. I just can't remember. I wish they were playing the unrated version in the marathon thing, but I doubt they are, considering they showed a poster and it said PG-13.
Oh, did they? That sucks.
Yeah, it said PG-13 on the listing for the marathon.
Oh, that's all right. It'll be a good, nice break until, because I mean that's you see the first three, they're all obvious rated R movies, and then you see this one, it's kind of a lull. PG-13, not a lull, but a little bit of a different pace, and then you get into the new one, which is rated R. So that'll be certainly too bad.
So I mean, the movie ultimately had some marks against it. It was PG-13. It did have some cliched stuff where it's like, oh, techno, oh, old. Then how old prevails over technology, and sometimes we have to work together, and even if we're different and stuff like that. But it'd be funny if Justin Long had a cameo, because I think him and his daughter were kind of getting lovey eyes towards the end of the movie. But
hopefully not. But that's just
so that would be interesting. But
wasn't Jack Black in this for a minute?
No, it was Kevin Smith. He had a cameo.
That's right. Yeah, Kevin Smith was the
Kevin Smith
guy.
Had a cameo in it as the technobabble guy.
Yes.
I
knew it was somebody. I couldn't remember who it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a bit more cookie cutter, and it was a bit more, a departure for the franchise into this kind of not even globe trotting, but, running across the country without getting any sleep within the span of 2 days or something like that.
As opposed to McClane just getting beaten up, in one place. Big
mark for it. It co-stars Tim Russ, who, if you don't know, we're Star Trek guys, so he plays Tuvok on Voyager. Yeah, he plays one of the agents.
Yeah. I think he's the agent, isn't he? Inside, or is he one of
them? He's one of two.
Okay,
they're two different agents, and I think it might be another Agent Johnson joke they make.
Very underrated actor. Surprised he doesn't do a whole lot more than he does. I mean, I know he does some stuff.
He was on one of those.
iCarly.
Wasn't he on?
He's the principal.
He was the principal or whatever on iCarly. Mm-hmm. That show got canceled. Anyway,
very good actor.
So it has a few marks against it. It has a few marks for it. It was a perfectly enjoyable action film. I really liked it. It wasn't like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull where I went and saw it and I was completely crushed and didn't like it.
No.
It was one of those movies where it was like, I love this franchise growing up. I can finally see it in theaters now. This is my first time seeing a Die Hard movie in theaters, and I was not disappointed. I very much enjoyed the film.
It was good. It was a good film to reestablish them and hopefully continue them on making more films. So for me, I'd say 7.5. Nice.
I'd give it a
rating.
7.
7. Okay.
So you're 7.5. I'm 7. It was a perfectly good movie, and I liked it. So that leads on to Good Day to Die Hard, which we can't talk about yet because we haven't seen it. So next week we're going to kind of reevaluate the films. I don't know if we'll go into so crazy depth reviewing them, but we will bring up things we noticed this time around, as well as our updated ratings of these films, because Tom and I haven't seen these movies in years, and so it'll be a real treat to go see.
We'll definitely review the new one for sure.
Yes, we'll be reviewing that quite in depth. We won't spoil it like we've spoiled these. I'm sorry if you haven't seen the Die Hard.
Well, yeah, I mean we haven't really.
But I mean these movies have been around a while.
They're only highlights. I mean you have to watch all of them anyway. You'll appreciate the newer one, I would think, more, really knowing as much as you can about them and watching the other four.
Yes.
Sure.
Alrighty, so that was our main topic. So that moves us on to recommends before we get into reviews. Now, recommends for our show 2 weeks ago. Tom recommended Glengarry Glen Ross, and I recommended Minority Report. Now, the thing about recommends is we'll recommend the movies, we'll talk about them a little bit, and then the next week we will read your emails about those films if you tracked them down and saw them, or if you had already seen them. You could write us and give us your opinion on the film. Now, we only got one email each regarding our recommends, so that worked out this week.
Yes.
But, let us know if you guys want us to keep doing this, because, I mean, either way, we'll keep recommending films.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've had so many people ask us
hopefully they're good
films.
enough to inspire a response.
Yes.
So, please
Unlike last week's. Okay, so, now, I recommended Minority Report. And we got an email from Mr. Cohen Van Hove, and he kind of added more on to what I was talking about and gave me a bit more of information on the film, and I'll just read his email really quick. So he said, as I'm sure others will have undoubtedly told you, all the good stuff you mentioned about Minority Report comes from the original story by Philip K. Dick. Now, I had forgotten that this was based on a short story by Philip K. Dick. A lot of movies are, like Total Recall and A Scanner Darkly, and there are other films that have been based on his short stories. So let me continue on here. So it's even more impressive that it was written in 1956 and predicted all the stuff you mentioned about a 2002 movie predicting. Truly, it's mostly hit or miss with sci-fi predicting the future, but it's still impressive. I'm told by my brother that Arthur C. Clarke was even better at that, so maybe check that out sometime. A bonus about sci-fi writing is that the format is often a short story, so you don't need to tackle an entire book to enjoy it. Sorry about my rambling. Here's a link to the Minority Report Wikipedia page. Keep up the good show. So thank you, Cohen. It seems like a lot of movies that are made out of like sci-fi adaptations or whatever, like adaptations of sci-fi material, it usually does tend to be short stories more so than books. And I think the thing about shorts or science fiction in general is that like an idea really can, just like a short idea could really trigger some sort of, large fleshed out film. I want to say, well, no, I'm pretty sure 2001: A Space Odyssey was written made off a full book, but yes, I haven't read the original Philip K. Dick's short story, but yeah, thank you for that little bonus bit of trivia. I always like trivia with films, but I didn't get anybody telling me what they thought about it. Unfortunately, Tom got a really good one on Glengarry Glen Ross. Woohoo! Like he went into really in depth about what he liked about it. So. This is from David in England. Regarding
Mehmet?
David Mehmet. Regarding Glengarry Glen Ross in response to Tom's recommendation. So he starts off, I don't usually make contact with podcasters or YouTubers that I listen to, but after watching Glengarry Glen Ross, Tom's film recommendation from episode 2, I thought I'd drop you an email. First off, I'd like to thank you both for doing the podcast. My interest in cinema, and particularly in cinematography, has peaked over the last few months. He goes on to talk about how he's kind of inspired by watching the Lord of the Rings extended edition Blu-ray box set, which when I got those, I poured through those. It's like 40 hours of special features regarding the making of those movies. And it's so, but as somebody who's interested in film, Tom, I think you'd like that too, because those are massive films. And coordination alone going into
something I was watching,
crazy.
Like in regards to wanting to, learn or something like that, it would probably be like Candy. I just want to watch as much as I could. As far as the film itself, I don't think I want to see 40 hours of Lord of the Rings. That's just me. If it was 40 hours of Star Trek, I'm all over it.
There you go. So he goes on to say that is what sparked a greater interest in cinema for him. And he's increasingly busy with university work, so having a podcast that I can listen to for a few hours a week is ideal for me. So thank you for listening. We're glad you're listening. So after listening to episode 2 of the podcast, I decided to watch Glengarry Glen Ross straight away. I didn't really know anything about the film apart from what both of you have talked about, so I wasn't exactly sure what I was getting myself in for. However, to say that I was pleasantly surprised by the film would be an understatement. At the top of my list of praises for the film would be to echo what you said about the dialogue. From the brief passages between characters that seemingly mean very little to the frank and often brutal and explosive exchanges that drive the plot and character development, the viewer gets a very satisfyingly deep expose into the lives of small-time salesmen. The quality of the acting in the film is also fantastic. However, that is hardly a surprise given the range of quality on display. And particularly Jack Lemmon's performance as the desperate, down-on-his-luck salesman stood out to me as another of the movie's strongest aspects. I spent parts of the film, mainly the scenes where Levine is seen pleading with other characters, thinking that I had seen something similar before. Therefore, it made sense when I researched the film afterwards to find out that Lemon's performance was the inspiration from the character Gil from The Simpsons, which is absolutely true. And like I had seen Gil well before I had seen Glengarry Glen Ross, and ever since seeing Glengarry Glen Ross,
new appreciation. Yes,
Gil is hilarious, even more funny. It's like, oh come on, I have only 4 more payments on that house. So like, anyway, so he said, for the sake of brevity, and so you aren't reading reviews for hours on end, I'll end it there. If I had to give the film a score out of 10, it would get a solid 9 from me. Great recommendation. Thank you for doing for the podcast, from Dave in England. So thank you, Dave.
Awesome.
That was a great review.
That was a great review. Awesome comment.
That was a great review. So everybody, you are now held to the standard of David in England for our recommends.
And if you haven't seen it, go watch Glengarry Glen Ross. Believe me, you will want. It's one of those films where you look at the surface, it's like, why would I want to watch this? And then after you watch it, it's like, how have I gone this long without seeing this? That's exactly.
Amazing.
I was just like David. I couldn't believe it after I watched it. It was a fantastic movie.
So look at there. Our recommends are gems. You guys
There
should
you go.
follow
Yeah,
along.
that's
Well, the biggest thing is like we want to get you guys seeing movies you wouldn't regularly watch,
Right.
maybe. So give it a chance. That's the best sort of films you can see is movies you didn't expect were going to be good. So that leads us into our recommends for this week. Do you want to go first or me, Tom?
You should go first.
All right, so I'm recommending. Now, again, some of you guys might have seen this, but I wanted to recommend my favorite film just to get it out of the way because I know down the road I'll end up recommending it anyway. So I'm going to recommend The Prestige. This I more recently have decided is my favorite film. It's directed by Christopher Nolan and written by Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan, his brother. And it is just there is nothing wrong with it. In my opinion, there is nothing wrong with the film. It's very strongly written. It's very strongly directed. Beautifully shot by Wally Pfister. And it's just such an incredibly layered film. I love Nolan when he's working with his own ideas and not necessarily. I mean, I love the Batman films, but he really does something special whenever it's just him working on something. It is, I think, loosely based on a novel, so I'm not saying it's completely original, but it is just so well done, and it's so multi-layered, and it's another one of his things where he does non-linear storytelling better than anybody I've ever seen. And he was kind of the director that introduced that idea to me. It really inspired me with Memento, was that it was told out of joint, as it were. It was like a puzzle that you kind of had to put together, sort of thing. So I mean, at a point in The Prestige, it's like we're being told a story. We're being from the perspective of a person in a prison reading a guy's journal, who in the journal the guy is talking about reading another guy's journal. And so it's like at one point you're within a journal within a journal, and it's kind of like Inception a little bit, journalception. But it's just such a great movie. It's about two rival magicians who are through a series of events become crazy, essentially bloodthirsty rivals. They just want to outdo each other. And it's essentially their life goal. And it stars Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, the butler from The Nanny. He's in it for a little bit. The butler from The Nanny.
The captain of the Enterprise on Hunt for Red October.
Yes, he was the captain of the Enterprise. It also stars David Bowie as Nikola Tesla and Andy Serkis. And it's such an excellent movie. It's really well paced. The story's amazing. The acting is amazing. Hugh Jackman, it was really the movie that really let me see Hugh Jackman as like just one of my favorite actors. So it really opened my eyes to him. I always liked him as Wolverine, but it was a movie that was like, wow, he really can act, outside of just being angry as Wolverine. So that is my recommends. I really love the movie. Check it out if you can find a copy of it somewhere. And if you've already seen it, just let us know. Email us, and just title your email, The Prestige, and I'll go through and read you guys' thoughts and reviews next week. And that moves it on to Tom's recommend.
Woohoo! Now, last I checked, and this is probably something we should do beforehand just to make the recommendation solid. Last time I checked, this is on Netflix. So if you find it on Netflix,
I can look it up right now.
There you go.
Once you
last I checked, it was, and I think it's still in my instant queue, so it should still be instant streamable. The one that I want to do this week is called Rounders. It's a film. Basically, it's sort of in the poker genre before it became this really big deal. So it seems like a very sort of small time poker guy who's down on his luck after betting. Putting basically his entire life savings, everything that he had accrued over time, put it all on the line to try to take this shot at the World Series, which, again, back then hadn't been as big as it is now, and it's big and massive in coverage. But even if you have an interest in poker and you play poker, I don't know how many people listening to this play poker or played online poker or any kind of poker. But if you have, you will. It is the most authentic poker movie I think that I've seen. I haven't seen some of the newer ones like 21 and those kind of films. But
21 was not that great.
Well, there you go. I don't.
That was about counting cards in Vegas.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. But it's Matt Damon. She's just this woman I keep wanting to bring up. Famke Janssen's in it.
Famke Janssen's in it?
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I don't believe it's instant streamable on Netflix anymore.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, we missed it. We were supposed to watch it together.
Well, yeah, that's a movie Tom and I have been trying to watch together for years, but every single time he brings it up, I'm just like, I'm not into it. I'm not interested in watching
I have
it right
movies like that. I'm with him like that on too.
Yeah, exactly. It took me. You dragged your feet forever to watch Memento, but yes, continue.
And Unbreakable, I think, was one. I don't know. Anyway, Edward Norton's in it as well. He plays the perfect guy you love to hate because he keeps antagonizing Matt Damon all throughout the thing. He's his friend, and Matt Damon feels that he has to help bail him out. The premise is being that his friend's name is Worm. Damon's character's name is Worm, and he's just gotten out of jail. He had basically taken the fall for something they were both involved in. So that's why Damon feels somewhat loyal to Worm and doesn't want to, even though he continues to treat him like crap throughout the entire movie. They have this debt they have to repay. Sound familiar, Dan? They have this debt that they need to repay, and they start building up their bankroll again. Damon had quit playing. Damon's character had quit playing, and he'd gone to law school and had a girlfriend and was starting to get away from it all. And his girlfriend, another one of those characters you just love to hate because she just, don't follow your dreams. Do everything whatever everybody else does, and all that stuff. And she's just like the queen bitch of anything you'd ever seen. But anyway, I don't want to build it up too much because it's somewhat subtle.
Don't give away the entire story.
Exactly. But anyway, it's a very well done film. It's very, like I said, very authentic to what actually happens back then, more so probably than now, although it's pretty similar to now. John Malkovich is in it. I can't think of the other guy's name. It's driving me nuts. He was in 50 Deeds with Mr. Deeds or 50 First Dates or whatever the hell that movie was. The butler for Adam Sandler in that movie, Mr. Deeds.
Oh, John Turturro.
John Turturro's in it, yeah. And he's excellent as a supporting actor and all of that. But it's just a really good paced movie. Even if you
Martin
don't,
Landau's in it.
Martin Landau, good God, I can't believe I forgot about that. Plays it means a lot to me because there's a lot of subtle sort of story plots that are things that I very much believe in. So if you have seen it, watch it again. But if you haven't seen it, do check it out. If you can't find it on Netflix or you can't get it off of Netflix, then you can go rent it, or if you have it, watch it, whatever. I'm losing steam here, but anyway.
Tom's hungry.
I'm starving, and I really need to eat. We owed them an extended sort of show, and I think we've gone a little longer than we usually do. But anyway, go watch this movie. It's a great film. It doesn't feel dated at all, even though it's been out for about 15 years now, and I think there is some inkling that there may be another one coming soon at some point, too. So watch it. Fantastic film. Highly recommended.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for Good Will Hunting 2 hunting season. Have you seen that?
No, is it really coming?
No. In Jay and Silent Bob, they did a joke where they went to a Hollywood studio and they broke in onto the set of Good Will Hunting 2 hunting season, and it was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck because they're good friends with Kevin Smith. And they're essentially recreating the scene where he's like the "How about them apples" thing, and they get the same actor that that they were arguing with in that bar scene. So it's them two and the actor guy, and like they end up pulling out shotguns and I think shooting him.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
it's like turns into. This
it was really funny because they had like this
brutal murder.
Yeah, it was hilarious. So, but anyway, and to close out the show, Tom, who's losing steam now, gets to review Warm Bodies.
Oh yeah, I'd almost forgotten about that. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes.
I won't go ridiculously long here, but I will review it. The thing with me with this film was that I'd seen this. This has been about a week ago. is that I had this preconceived notion. I hadn't seen much of anything prior to the film.
Yep.
I had seen the poster, and I'd seen, a couple people talking about it and stuff, and I was like, oh, it's going to be this sort of emo zombie movie love story. Blech. And my sister really wanted to see it, and I was really looking for other things to go see, but she wanted to see it, so I was like, okay, I'll go take her to see it. It was only 90 minutes long, so it couldn't have been that bad, right?
Yeah.
So I get there, and I'm not going to give away every story plot point or anything like that, but I was very pleasantly surprised. It was a good movie, and to do that within the zombie genre, which I think has been absolutely ridiculously done to death, to have semi-original spin on the whole zombie thing, I think was really good. It didn't have too much. It had some, but it didn't have too much of that sort of feeling you get with these movies about characters not believing other characters despite evidence, people that just want to be bad because I'm bad and I just want to be bad. There was parts of the film where characters who may have been overbearing sort of turn into caring characters, which was really good. But the main premise of the whole story was semi-unique. I don't think I've ever seen any sort of zombie film where zombies are pretty much dead and gone. You just kill them and that's it. They're done.
Yeah.
But these zombies are re-grasping at life somewhat. I'm not going to give away the whole thing, but they're somewhat getting this second chance due to what's going on between these two, the main characters. Not only that, but it's very unusual to say the least. I thought the performances of the two main characters, or the main actors, were very good. Surprisingly so. I hadn't seen either really in anything other than I guess the guy was in X-Men
First Class.
And
he's going to be in Jack the Giant Slayer coming out.
There you
soon.
go. Very good performance because he can't. It takes him a while. He can't speak because he's a zombie and he has to communicate with this girl throughout the movie. Now, again, I'm not well versed in a ton of zombie movies, but I thought it was very original for its type of film.
Yeah.
John Malkovich, who again I'll say was very was good as sort of that overbearing father figure, leader sort of guy who ends up needs to see visual proof to be able to turn his way of thinking around, but is open-minded enough to actually make the change. And it was. I'm not sure what the budget was on the film. I think we looked it up, but I can't remember what it was. But it had sort of that smallish budget feel, but didn't feel like a small budget film. Rob Corddry, another one. Very surprised. I've only seen him kind of acting like a goof, and haven't really seen him as a serious actor really until this film.
Yeah, he's usually mainly in comedies like Hot Tub Time Machine and other things.
Very, very fine performance from him. I was very surprised. Again, as when you first see these two characters, it's funny that he's friends with the main character, and they're zombies, but they're still friends. But it's pretty funny how they communicate with each other at the beginning of the film, just a series of grunts and nods and that kind of thing. It's a very cute, very good little movie. It's not really that emo sort of love story that that seemingly what I thought it was going to be. Good performances, good cast. Good story.
Teresa Palmer, isn't that the name of the? Was it what?
Who? Jesse or Teresa? Did you say?
I think it's Teresa Palmer. It's the name of the actress in there.
I had never seen her in anything before that I can remember.
Let's see here. Yeah, it is Teresa Palmer. I was googling her, and one of the suggestions was Teresa Palmer hot Teresa Palmer feet. All right. Feet.
Okay, that's weird.
Yes, Teresa.
One thing I would say that it's kind of a knock on it. There are some weird editing involved in this. There's some weird edits, some scenes that seem to go on for there's no dialogue. They just kind of seem to hang longer than they should. Maybe trying to extend it to 90 minutes somehow. I don't know. But there were some weird edits. The music was good. But that was really, I would say, the only blemish to it. If it's not your usual fare, you'll probably have that stigma going into it of this being some weird zombie movie. But often happens in life, if you go in, you might go in with that, but don't let it stop you from going to see it. It was a pretty good movie.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that review, Thomas. And
do I have to give it a rating? Or
you probably should give it a rating.
Yeah, because, that'll bring me tied with your because you did
amounts of ratings.
You did Parker, I think. Yeah, we've rated everything.
Parker.
You did Parker, and then we both did what other? The King's, all the King's.
All the King's speech. Yes, King's speech.
I almost feel drunk for crying out loud.
You're still lightheaded from not eating.
I guess. Yeah, I need to.
I told you to eat before we recorded this.
Well, next time I like being sort of energetic. Well, whatever.
I like being lightheaded and drunk feeling during this.
Well, yeah. Anyhow,
give you your rating.
Warm Bodies, I will give solid 7.5.
7.5. I thought you might go 8 for that. I was
thinking.
No,
it wasn't ridiculously anything special. It was a good. It was a pleasant surprise. Pleasant surprise. Better than I thought it was going to be. It was a good movie.
Alrighty. Well, that will wrap us up. Again, for emails, for recommendations, or if you just want to say hi, or potentially, like, the format of the show is we'll do emails, we'll do news, and then we want to go off on a topic. This week's topic was the Die Hard franchise, but we want to kind of go off, maybe discuss ideas or something like that. So if you want to suggest a topic for us to talk about for our main brunt, and we feel it's good enough to talk about for a good 20 minutes, half an hour, email us at gidlowshow@gmail.com. So gidlowshow@gmail.com, or you could find us on Twitter at gidlowshow on Twitter.
Yes.
And so twitter.com/gidlowshow, and we'll use that to tweet out the link whenever episodes are up. And I seriously apologize about you iTunes users. I will get on that. I swear to God. I have not. I have
all
not made
Dan.
it.
I have nothing to do with it.
I know. I've made no effort to get it on iTunes. Yes. So, but I still have the MP3s. I need to create the RSS feed and submit it to iTunes so they can do all that. So, thank you for listening. From Tom and I, Tom's gonna go eat. I'm gonna probably set this up to render and pass out.
Yeah. Well, just as a final reminder, it'll be kind of a quote short week because this will go up Tuesday. We'll have the next one up Monday.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna be gone over the weekend, so you and I are gonna have to record it.
We'll pre-record
it. That'll be fun.
That will be fun. And also, just to kind of give people a heads up-ish sort of thing, next month we will be doing, somehow we will have to figure it out, we'll have the setup and all that, but we will actually be live together in person doing this podcast.
Yep.
So
I will be home visiting family.
That's
my
right.
Sister's niece's birth.
That's right. So we will be side by side doing this show at some point, so we'll probably have some video for that and all that stuff. But yeah, stay tuned.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for listening. Bye.